Well, hi and welcome to our Sunday live Q&A here on the channel. I'm glad you're with me. If you want to follow along when we're not live on Sundays here at 5 Pacific, 8 Eastern, so everything along the bottom of the screen is a good way to follow along for Instagram, Facebook, and if you want to get in touch, you can go to my website, motormouth.ca, and send me an email. So those are the best ways to follow along. For example, just put some pictures up of the new Honda Clarity. That is the plug-in hybrid, and the video will be going up here in the next day or so. So we're waiting for people to jump on board, and now that they've been notified that we are live on the air. Excuse me. I just want to let you know what else is going on. Have a bunch of upcoming trips, been on the road a lot. This car here is the all-new Jetta. The Jetta is just going to be sent to dealers in the next couple of weeks. And we were down in North Carolina getting a chance to drive that car. And the video is up now. So if you haven't checked out the new Volkswagen Jetta video, it is out. This coming week, I'm going to be heading up to the interior British Columbia to Vernon for the new Mazda 6 launch. So look for a video on that by the end of the week. A lot of people are asking about the Mazda CX-5 and if the diesel is ever coming. Mazda's been teasing us about that, so I'll ask those questions when I'm up there. The following week, I'm going to be driving a vehicle that is a diesel and is coming and has, is going to be released here any day now, is the all-new Ford F-150 with their 3-liter turbo diesel engine, so I'm going to be driving that vehicle. The following week is the G70, the Genesis G70. I just want to let you know that they introduced the pricing for this car. So we're going to be driving that in a couple of weeks in Montreal at Mont Tremblant, which is the racetrack. So they obviously feel strongly about the handling of this car. It's going to start in Canada at $42,000. That's for the 2-liter turbocharged with all-wheel drive and a manual transmission. Make that, the manual transmission comes with rear-wheel drive is $45,000. With the automatic is $42,000. So you actually pay more to get the manual transmission and just rear-wheel drive. The 3.3-liter twin-turbo 6-cylinder is starting at $52,000, and the topped-out one is $57,000. So the G70 from Genesis and the Kia Stinger are based on a lot of similar technology and platforms. So yes, the Genesis is going to be more expensive, so I will be putting that out on the channel as soon as we get a chance, and that's in a couple of weeks. Then after that, I have a week-long trip going to Germany. I'm going to be driving some Porsches in Germany, the Cayenne hybrid in Spain. Make that France, and there's other trips coming up as well. So these are all videos that will be coming up on the channel shortly. So don't forget to get your questions in. I just thought I'd give you a quick update on what's going on out there. Let's get into, let me just see where I've got here. Let's get into the questions and see what people are saying. So happy Sunday to everybody. How's the weather in Eastern Canada? I just want to let you know I cut my grass here on the West Coast for the first time this year. And I know, speaking to my family back east in Toronto, that they're having a big ice storm. I put a picture of my lawnmower on Facebook for my friends just as a joke. And some are saying, yeah, there's almost, like an inch of ice on their vehicles. So it's going to be treacherous, power outages, and treacherous driving tomorrow. So we'll have to see if people are going to just stay home. All right, let's get into the questions right away. We have Calvin sending in the first question. Hey, Zach, I'm leasing a 2016 Lexus IS 300, 19,000 K on it. 40 months. I have 23 months left. How hard is it to get out of my lease early? What are your thoughts on Lease Busters? Lease Busters really is the way if you just want to transfer that lease over to somebody else. A lot of times people aren't aware of actually how a lease works. So the company, we'll say Toyota Credit or Finance or whatever it's called, or Lexus, they actually own the car and you've agreed to pay them every month for the car, in this case for 40 months. So you are obliged with that contract to fulfill it. Now, if you get somebody to take over your lease, they're basically taking over that contract. So Lease Busters really is the best way to get somebody to see your vehicle. So you've got 23 months left. You've gone 17 months with only 19,000 kilometers. That would probably be an attractive lease to somebody that maybe does a little bit more mileage, and they can pick up your lease and there's still some equity in it. So that's really the way to go. I have done some work for Lease Busters in the past, and yeah, I think it really is the best. Ryan is next from Windsor, Ontario, wondering about the reliability of the newest Tacoma. Seems like the Tacoma is behind the times. How about the Ford Ranger? Is it worth waiting for? The Ranger is still another year away, so not sure what your timelines are there. Toyota is known, as you know, for great reliability, amazing resale value, and that Tacoma is, I call it the bank of Toyota. You put your money in, you get your money out. All those years later, there have been some rumors of issues with the new D4S engine system. I think if you really want to find out about the reliability of that new Tacoma, I would go to a Toyota chat room dedicated to Tacoma, and I am a member of one. I go on regular. I have an old Tacoma. I've got like a 2007 Tacoma. So go on there and see what people are saying. Is the Ford Ranger worth the wait? Well, I'll have to wait and see. Nobody's driven it yet. I mean, it is sold in other parts of the world, but it's still a year away. So if you're in a rush to get a truck, it might not be worth waiting for. Ryan goes on to say, do you foresee a day when sedans will no longer be around, or SUVs and pickup trucks taking over once and for all? 75% of the Canadian market is light-duty trucks. That includes SUVs and pickup trucks, not heavy-duty pickup trucks, but 75% of the market. Now, when we were down at the Jetta launch, they made a point of saying this. 25% of all cars are still sedans. So that is still a substantial part of the Canadian marketplace, and they feel that they have a better vehicle than much of the competition, and there's still a market out there for them. Are cars going to go totally away? I don't think so. What I think we're going to see is a lot more of what I call outbacking. It's funny, I have a picture of an Outback up here today. What they've done is they've taken a station wagon, in this case, raised it up, put some cladding on it, made it a little more rugged, but at its essence, it's still a car. So are we going to start to see, sedans starting to do that as well, adding all-wheel drive, raising them up, giving them a little bit of cladding? I think they might. And no one's really doing that yet, doing sort of an off-road sedan. They're doing it with, hatchbacks and wagons, but not really with sedans. So I think that might be an opportunity for some car manufacturers as well. Mark Dion, hey Zach, what are indicators that a car will shoot up in value despite rareness? For example, it seems like luxury cars with a lot of digital entertainment features are losing value like crazy. Well, I've mentioned this before. The bigger they are, the harder they fall in the luxury space. So the more expensive the car is, the more they depreciate. You take a 7 Series BMW and a 3 Series BMW and you go out 10 years, the 3 Series BMW still holds a much greater percentage of its value than the 7 Series will. Yes, there are people that are afraid of the electronics and all the advanced systems. For example, you might have air suspension in the vehicle and other things like in maybe an S-Class. And they really are going to affect the ability of somebody to fix them. For example, I drove the new A7 recently, and it has a digital dash, 2 screens, and so on. So yeah, and the bigger question is, are these cars going to be serviceable once you get past 15 or 20 years? Are you going to be able to get those electronics? So yeah, it's a bit of a question mark. So are cars going to be able to go up in value despite them being rare? Well, for example, I'm a Porsche fan. I really do believe that the last of the 6-cylinder Boxster and Caymans will probably hold their value better than the new turbocharged 4-cylinders because it's a proven engine with long-term reliability, and Porsche's been making flat 6 engines without turbocharging for many, many years. Now they've also done it with turbocharging, but when you've downsized to a 4-cylinder in the Cayman and the Boxster, there are people that are going to have a question mark. How reliable is it going to be compared to the old 6-cylinder? So I think those cars will be holding their value relatively better than others. Going up in value, really it comes down to scarcity, in my opinion. Peak Time Racing says, would you buy a Mercedes E-Class from 2011 to 12 without a warranty? I would go in with your eyes open. You really need to do your homework. Where's the car come from? When you're buying a used car of any kind, doesn't matter whether it's a Mercedes or a Toyota or a Honda, You were buying the history of the car, the person that owned it, the maintenance that was done, and if it's been in any accident. So these are things you have to do investigations. So if you're looking at a 2011 or 12 Mercedes-Benz, make sure you can find out, does it have records? Has the maintenance be done? And then if you're really interested in it, get a car proof report, or the person selling it should provide that to you. Then you have to get it inspected by a third-party mechanic. And once all of those, check, you tick all those boxes, then it still might be a good car to own. Now, if it was a 2001 and a 2002 Mercedes, I would say no, run away as fast as you can. But I think that's new enough that it's definitely going to be better than the older cars. So do all of those things to cover yourself and see if you can find out the history of the car. And buying a cheap car with no history versus buying a more expensive one with a full history and you know how it's been looked after, it's much better to spend more money on the car when you get it than trying to repair the old one, in my opinion. Big Pizza Pie says, your opinion on the new RDX coming out. I've been asked this the last few weeks. They are going to be doing the launch of the RDX coming up here in British Columbia. I believe it is in June. So I have seen it. There is a quick video I did from the Detroit Auto Show, or was it the LA show? One of the two, when the Detroit show when the RDX came out. So go and have a look at it. I'm going to wait to pass judgment until I have a chance to drive it, but it is coming up here in the next couple of months. The launch for the RDX is going to be here in British Columbia. Mark Dion says, sorry about my bad English. I'm watching from Switzerland. Sounds perfectly fine to me. Surprise K says, cheers from Vancouver. My wife is looking at an Atlas, CX-9 or Pilot. Any thoughts or preferences you could share? Here's an interesting story. Yesterday, I'm getting into my car outside, and for those that have never been to Vancouver in the spring, there's cherry blossoms all over, these pink petals, and it rained and my car was covered with cherry blossoms. So I'm hosing it off, getting all the cherry blossoms off, and a woman is getting into her brand new Volkswagen Atlas parked across the street. And I said to her, how do you like your Volkswagen Atlas? Because that's what I do. I ask people about how they like their cars. She says, I absolutely love it. She says, I can't believe how much we love this Atlas. And she says, we got the exec line loaded in. She says it offers so much value than when you compare it to, like, they were looking at a 7-passenger BMW X5. They're looking at the Q7 from Audi and some more premium vehicles. She said, we looked at the Highlander, we looked at the Pilot, and she said, absolutely, hands down, this offers the best value. So fully loaded is $52,000 for Atlas. You don't have to go that high. I think there were probably premium buyers that went for the Atlas based on size and space. She had 2 little kids, strollers, car seats, and she couldn't say enough about it. And then she said, by the way, my brother bought one and he loves it too. So Atlas is the winner when it comes to interior space. So how often are you taking 6 or 7 people in the car? If it's once or twice a year, might be overbuying, right? If you're taking people more than 2 rows on a regular basis, it is worth consideration because it is the biggest vehicle and it is a minivan replacement. Not entirely, because you don't get the sliding doors, but it's as good as you're going to get towards replacing a minivan on interior space. So those are my thoughts. The other vehicles, the CX-9 and the Pilot, I would say my CX-9 is it would be ahead of Pilot. And the main reason for the Pilot is because the top model has the 9-speed automatic. The downside of the CX-9 is it's a bit small. New user says, hi, I'm looking for an all-wheel drive sedan 4-door with automatic, low mileage, under 20,000 Canadian. Any suggestions? You asked this last week. I answered last week. A Subaru Impreza. That's what I suggest for you. Jiz Jing says, did you find out if the next generation Golf production to be back in Germany or North America? Golf is not going back to Germany. Golf is being produced in Mexico. That is a myth. Wheels and an engine. Hi, Zach. Looking at purchasing a used Porsche Cayenne. Diesel. It's a 2014 with 15,000 kilometers. They're asking $65K, selling as a certified pre-owned from Porsche. Here's the crazy thing is that, well, first of all, I don't know what the options are. 15,000 K is very low kilometers for a car that is that age. And the other thing is I'm not sure what the equipment is. Now you can take any Porsche and add on $20,000, $30,000 of options like that. So did it start out as a $100,000 Cayenne or did it start out as a $78,000 Cayenne? So that's what you have to find out. Now 65 for a car of that age seems on the higher end, but it's only got 15,000 and it's a certified pre-owned vehicle. The only thing I would caution you on is that is the model before they did the facelift. Okay, so they did a mild facelift for 2015, which is the one I have, and I prefer it. So I actually just happen to have a picture of it right here. So this is my one here. So the headlights, you see the 4 LED daytime running lights. That's different. You get you get a bigger air opening in the front. It looks a little bit more chunky, and around the back you have square taillights. So do you like that design of the 2014? That's something to consider. So I think when you go to the 2015, the prices jump up again. Go to CanadianBlackBook.com. CanadianBlackBook.com. Type in, it'll give you the wholesale price and the average retail price, and you'll get a pretty good idea. But you're going to love it. It's the other thing is, we haven't touched on this. Once the vehicle is repaired with the updated emissions, it's going to have a vastly extended warranty on all of the systems that are affected with emissions. So that is the entire fuel line, the entire exhaust line, the turbochargers, the valves, the block is even covered. So that is a lot of coverage. So yeah, it's a great product. You'd love it. Peak Time Racing is asking again, just want to let you know that your CX-9 video helped my wife and I decide to get one. It's such a fantastic vehicle and we are so happy with it. Thank you. Well, that's very nice of you. And that's why I'm here. I'm here to give you some honest advice. I really like the CX-9. So as I mentioned earlier, if it's all about space and getting the biggest, go get the Atlas. If it's about handling, get the CX-9. If it's about interior refinement, the CX-9's a great choice as well. Edgerson says, hi, Zach. Love to watch your Q&As. Watching from Montreal. Nice. Roy Park says, how's the resale value of Mazda in Canada? I'm not really sure overall as a brand how it does, but once again, go to CanadianBlackBook.com. I do work for Canadian Black Book. I'm going to be straight up front for you, but it is an amazing service. They give you the wholesale buyer's guide. Like, for example, you go in to trade a car in and they want to offer you money for it, they're going to Black Book to look that up. So it's a great service. So have a look for yourself if you're looking at a particular vehicle. Wheels in an Engine says, we occasionally tow a ski boat and always use our current 2012 Pilot to drive to our cottage. Any known reliability issues? My primary concern is expensive repair bills. I think Wheels in an Engine was talking about the Atlas. The Atlas has a wonderful engine. It's a VR6. And it wheels in. I'm sorry, I got to go back and see which one he was talking about. Oh, the Cayenne. Sorry. Back on the Cayenne. Oh, unbelievable for towing. So, Wheels in an Engine. Go to Rennlist.com. RENNLIST.com. Rennlist.com is the Porsche forum, and you will see over and over Cayenne diesel owners love them for towing, and a lot of people bought them for towing. No issues. Yes, you have questions about long-term reliability, but the thing is that engine and the whole, as I mentioned, the exhaust and the injection system, fuel line system is all going to be covered with an extended warranty because of the whole Dieselgate thing. So an excellent product for towing. A Touareg TDI would be another great choice. Daniel says, any idea about the timeline for the Genesis SUV? I will ask when I go to drive the Genesis G70 coming up in 2 or 3 weeks. So I'll ask. Tom Shen says, hi, Zach. With Accord struggling with sales volume and all the factory rebates getting higher each month, do you think it's a better buy than an equivalent Civic? Well, you know what? The new, I heard this as well. Apparently, it isn't selling as well as they had hoped. And you know, they came out with a kind of a polarizing design, and I love the way it drives. And yeah, I mean, if they keep throwing great rebates at it, and it gets to a point where there's not much in it, that's a lot more car than a Honda Civic. So do the math on it. And if it works out that they're giving some great rebates or great lease incentives, then it might be a good way to go. Konos 44 says, looking at an Accord Sport 2-liter T, yes, with a manual. Do you think the issue in the US could translate to lower rates here in Canada? I'm not sure exactly what you're saying. If the sales in the US are slow, if it's going to translate into Canada, I'm not sure. You know what's interesting, just speaking of the Honda Accord, and I just took this, I just dropped it back at Honda today, is the plug-in hybrid, the Clarity. God, could they make it any uglier? I don't think so. That has got to be the ugliest car on the road. Drives great. Honda Accord drives great. A lot of people don't like the design of it. They think it looks, you know, like a Malibu. This thing, it just looks like a frog. I mean, amazing technology. Love what it can do, but styling counts for so much in the auto industry. It's really interesting to watch. Sehan says, what do you think about longevity of batteries in EV cars? Does it make sense to own one for long term? Thank you. Well, it depends what your long term is. Like, you're talking about 20 years or 10 years. If it's 10 years, I wouldn't worry about it at all. And it's something to consider if you're going to own it longer than that. And the thing is, an electric car with a bad battery is worth nothing. So if it's going to cost you, you know, $7,000, $8,000, $10,000 to replace the battery, that's really what the car is worth once the car is fixed. So these are all things that we have to work through as a society. Are we going to value older electric cars? I mean, the one thing I always say is electric cars are going to be like, you know, smartphones. Every 2 years you want to get a new one. And electric cars are going to be no different, because the advancements in batteries, density, the drive systems, we're already seeing that with the new versions of the Leaf and the new versions of the Volt. They're going to get better and better and better. So that's something to consider. I think that we're going to get to a point where I think leasing is the best way to go for an electric car. So I'm not sure if I answered your questions. Jasser says, is there somewhere on your website we can see all of your old reviews based on year, make, model? I'm shopping for a used sedan between 2003 and 2006. I can't find reviews. Yeah, on my site, the motormouth.ca, the reviews I have from 2003 to 6 would be printed like from the newspaper that I did, not video reviews. The oldest video reviews I have for my YouTube channel, or this YouTube channel, is 2012. So not sure I can help you there, unfortunately. Parth says, hey Zach, my dad is looking to trade a 2012 Audi Q5 with a 3.2 liter with 130 kilometers on it. He will add 30K, looking for more fuel economical SUV. He was thinking of a BMW X1. Any suggestions? Well, the thing is, you need to, first of all, determine what your budget is. So that's good. I'm not sure what that vehicle is worth. So say you're getting $45,000 total. Then you have to decide what size of vehicle. So yeah, the X1 is a great choice. That new Volvo XC40 I drove, and the video is on the channel, is definitely one I would consider. The Q3 is going to be updated, so you might want to hold off on that. But the X1 is not an issue. I think that's a fine choice. But I would have a look at the new Volvo XC40 as well. Chow says, the ice storm is coming to Montreal from Toronto. Yeah, a bad night for weather. I can't believe how bad it is back east, so we're all thinking of you. Mark Dion says, do you think the Lotus Elise is overpriced? I just don't see how they justify it. Almost the same price as the Cayman. Well, that kind of answers your question. Once you start competing against the Cayman, then what's the overarching reason to get the Lotus? Unknown, you know, reliability and build quality, or known reliability and build quality. Now granted, you know, a lot of the Lotus cars using Toyota technology, but yeah, I think it's a bit of a no-brainer. I don't really follow the Lotus market that much because it's just such a very low volume car here in Canada. But yeah, I would agree with you. There came in probably a better choice. Katamasta says, hey Zach, love your show. Cheers from Houston, Texas. I own a Mark 7 GTI and I'm looking for an upgrade to rear-wheel drive. Looking at a certified pre-owned M3 or a new Mustang GT. Any recommendations? And that's a 2015 M3. Well, they're both fantastic choices. And rear-wheel drive, Mustang is a wonderful car. The new Mustang GT with the magnetic ride control really is a special vehicle. But probably for resale value, if you're going to hold it for 3 or 4 years and then maybe get rid of it, the M3 would be more desirable in the marketplace. That is a really nice car. Now, consider a 2 Series BMW, okay? I'm not sure how much space you need, but if you can swing a new BMW 240, that is the car to get. It's only, I think, 20 horsepower less than the current M4 or M3, and that is an awesome car. That's the one I would pick. Konos44 says, I'm not a huge fan of the front grille of the new Accord in general. What are the odds of Honda updating the front end anytime soon? Well, if the sales are a big fat turd, trust me, they can change it pretty quickly. Will they do it in one model year? Well, they did in 2012, I believe it was, when they brought out the Civic, and it was so like the previous model. A lot of people crapped all over Honda for the fact they didn't change it enough. They changed it the next year, and they upgraded it to make it look slightly different because it looked almost identical to the previous model. Could Honda update this car? If the sales are as bad as the chatter is online about it in the United States, yeah, they could change it pretty quickly. Will they? I don't think so. I don't think they will. LoveChan 21 Century says the best small premium SUV, X1 GLA, Q2, XC40, or any other choice. I think the best all-round vehicle in that class is the new XC40 because of the space. They did a great job. I encourage you, the video, I just did it last week, I think, a week or so ago, it's just a great use of space. And when you compare it to vehicles on price in that class, I think it really is the one to beat. The interior is very nice. You can have one at around $40,000 in the Canadian marketplace. The X1 is a good choice. GLA is too small. Yeah, that would be my choice. Gordon says, do you think Toyota will still have the lead in hybrids in 10 years? First to market advantage, absolutely. Now, if they don't start to come with, like they have the Prius Prime, which is their plug-in hybrid car that would compete with this Clarity, they need to have more of this in the marketplace. The rumors are, we thought maybe at the New York show they would unveil an electric Toyota RAV4, but a plug-in RAV4. Here's the thing, the new RAV4 is going to be based on the Toyota new global architecture that is used by the Camry and it's used by the new Prius. The Prius was the first one to run on this all new platform. So they have the Prius Prime, which is the plug-in hybrid Prius. Well, you think it's the same platform. Could they do a plug-in RAV4 hybrid? Yes, that's where they really need to be, is in the small SUV space. And for example, the CHR, the small Toyota, that would be a great candidate. So yes, they have that first to market advantage, a 20-year lead on everybody else. Not entirely a lead, but you know, when I say hybrid, most people think Toyota. So I think yes, if they innovate and don't just keep their hybrids the same, but add in this plug-in technology to get people, you know, 50, 70, 80 kilometers of range, I think they will have the lead. And you're seeing it in the United States. I think the Prius Prime in the United States is the second or third best-selling plug-in in the US. Jing Jai, cool handle. Do you think the Porsche Panamera compared to the S-Class and the BMW 7 Series? The S-Class is absolutely the poster child for traditional luxury, okay? Very smooth, very refined, very quiet, very opulent, really a pillow when you're driving along the road. 7 Series is a bit more sporty, but still kind of more in the traditional camp. The the Panamera is in the sport camp. It can be soft if you get it with the air suspension, but yeah, it is much more performance oriented and is a driver's car, where the other ones are, you ride in them. You will drive the Panamera. Frozen Car Guy, great handle. Thanks for mentioning Lease Busters a few weeks ago, Zach. I just took over a lease on a 2016 Mustang GT with 2 years left. Not that I could drive it here in Toronto this weekend. Yeah, well, that's a shame. Having a nice car in Eastern Canada and looking at it in the garage is frustrating, especially when you're waiting for the weather to change and you just think it's happening. I heard a lot. I was listening on the radio today while I was driving around. They had a national show on the radio I was listening to. And people are phoning in, and apparently a lot of people had already switched off their winter tires to put on their summer tires, and at the end of March, and now here we are middle of April, and there's a big ice and snowstorm. So yeah, it sucks, and I know waiting for your car to roll out of the garage is a long time. Roy Park says, wondering how much the monthly payment would be on the XC40 roughly without putting down a down payment. I think online you have a payment calculator. Most car manufacturers have a build and price tool on their website. So I think, Roy, you can do that online. Not exactly sure about the Volvo one, if it'll give you an estimate of lease payments, but yeah, and the dealer could for sure. Sasha says, hey Zach, I currently drive a 16 Pilot Touring and looking for something more luxurious and sporty. What are your thoughts on the new RDX? When will you have access for review? So that came in obviously after I mentioned that I'm going to be driving it hopefully here in June. I haven't got the official invite, but a little bird told me where it's going to be held. I know somebody that puts on the events for Honda, and he's telling me that it's going to be in June here on the West Coast. So hopefully getting the invite soon. So stay tuned for that. Wendy says, I'm in the market for a small SUV. I have an Audi Q3 and the Volvo XC40 in mind. Which would you choose? I would say XC40 until we're getting the new Q3 to come out. Kamanshui, I think is how you say it. Love your show. Looking to buy a hatchback around 30K. Which car would you suggest out of these? The Mazda 3 GT, hatch, the Golf Highline, and the Kia Forte 5. Two of them are at the very end of their run. So Mazda is going to have a new Mazda 3 probably within the year. Kia with the Forte is just been introduced at the auto shows. So a new Forte hatch will be coming. Golf would be my choice of the three right now. Now the Mazda 3 GT is a great product, but buying at the very end of its run wouldn't be my choice. The other one you should try, especially if you drive a manual, is the Honda Civic hatchback. I really enjoyed it, but same thing. I don't know what's going on with Honda and their styling. That car from the back with the big cheese grater grills, I don't like that. And the Golf is a real nice product. And the nice thing is, if you're looking at $30,000, excuse me, consider a GTI and see if you can get one, because they start at roughly $31,000. Taylor Earl, what are your thoughts on a mid-cycle refresh of the Range Rover and the Range Rover Sport? I think that the new, so I think you're talking about the new in-dash technology. I like it. I think that was one of the, actually it was the biggest criticism of the Range Rover products in the Sport and the full size, is the fact that I felt that their interiors were not befitting of the price they charged. These are expensive 100,000 plus trucks, and their interiors look like anything that Ford would put out. And that's not a knock against Ford, but that's a mainline car company. It's not a premium brand. So the fact that they've gone to this dual screen technology and they've upgraded things, I think it's great. The biggest one for me is they changed the seats, and I always found their seats really hard. So going to a softer seat, I think is definitely going to be welcomed by more people. Ram says, hey Zach, your videos are very informative. I'm a new immigrant from India looking to buy a used certified SUV. P.S. I cannot afford more than $20,000 to $25,000. I have to pay even for car insurance. So a used SUV, and you have 20 to 25, and you're looking for a used certified. I'm going to give you one that I give out all the time. That's the Toyota RAV4. bulletproof. You're going to buy a used one. You're going to drive it. You're going to be very happy with it. Another one is, wait for it, Chevy Equinox. Chevy Equinox is a great product. It is a proven track record of really strong reliability, and it's a bit bigger than a lot of the competition, and you will drive that for many years and be very happy with it. So those would be two good choices. You might actually get a better deal on a used Equinox, I think you would, than the Toyota RAV4. Monica says, what is your opinion on the Mitsubishi Eclipse? I think you mean the Eclipse Cross, the new one. Here's the thing is, a lot of people crapped on the styling of that. They said it looked like, what's the name of the, I've lost it, it'll come to me. Didn't like the styling of it. Now you have to see it in person and you have to see it on the road. It actually looks better than it does in pictures. And the interior, I think, is class above. I thought it was a great product and I think it's going to sell quite well. But yeah, a lot of people don't like the idea. So try it. That's my advice to you. Try the Eclipse Cross. It might surprise you. The engine is a strong point. With a 1.5 liter, a lot of people are thinking it's not going to be powerful enough, and it seems to do the job just fine. Black Bean Chicken says, when is the Skyactiv X coming out? I will ask, I'm going to the Mazda 6 event this week here in British Columbia. I'll ask these questions. Richard DeMello says, hey Zach, this is Richard from Shelburne, Ontario. Just a little update for you. Shelburne, Ontario, used to drive past Shelburne on the way to our farm north of Toronto near Owen Sound. So we used to drive up Highway 10 every Friday night, going up there on the weekends. So I know Shelburne well. Yeah, we had a farm up near Owen Sound in a little small town called Bognor. Okay, look that up on the map. We have been getting blasted with ice and snow for the past 3 days now. Well, you're kind of in the snow belt there, just off the escarpment. Your opinion on the best all-wheel drive 4x4 SUV for snowy, icy conditions. Now, I really need a little bit more information from you. Do you mean a real, true 4x4 or an all-wheel drive? Okay, so 4x4 mean you can lock it. You know, if that's the case, a G-Wagon for Mercedes-Benz would probably be the best, but that's probably not the answer you're looking for. So are you looking for an all-wheel drive SUV or a real locking 4x4 system? So one of a type like that would be like a 4Runner from Toyota would be a great choice if that's what you're looking for. Nestor says, hey Zach, there have been several car subscription services that have started in the States. What do you think? Is this an option that will continue? Yeah, so Volvo has done a subscription service which includes everything. You make a payment and you get the car and the insurance and everything. Cadillac has a subscription service where you not only get to drive one Cadillac, you get to drive really any Cadillac. For example, in the summer you want to drive you know, a CTS Coupe, and then in the winter you want to drive an Escalade because you're going skiing on the weekends regularly. They have those in the United States. The Canadian market is a lot smaller, like I mean a lot smaller. The population of California is bigger than all of Canada. So the economies of scale are much easier to do in the United States. Will this type of thing translate? I think it will in the long run. And subscription services, for example, wouldn't it be great if you could buy a car, say like a Mercedes-Benz, and then you had access to unlimited car-to-go services. Car-to-go is the Mercedes-Benz own car-sharing business that you could use not only here, but when you're traveling in other parts of the world. Or a system where maybe on 3 weekends a year, you could take your small vehicle and trade it in for a bigger vehicle. Like say you're going to a wedding that's 1,000 kilometers away and you need a bigger car. So you take in your you know, C-Class and you trade it in for an E-Class for the weekend. I think those sorts of things are going to start to be evolving because once one company does it, it's going to be quite competitive. Camping Shadow Complex, good afternoon. How to choose between the Volkswagen Arteon and the upcoming Jetta GLI? Well, the Arteon is a lot bigger, okay? Don't kid yourself, this is a big car. The Jetta is a big car as well. And the GLI apparently is going to be pretty skookum when it comes out. So I heard a rumor that I'm going to get a chance to drive the Arteon sometime. Can't say when, but I will get a chance to drive it. But the GLI, apparently the new GLI, so think about this. Think about what would the GLI be built on? The GLI is going to have the independent rear suspension. It's going to have a GTI drivetrain. But is it going to have the European GTI drivetrain with more power than the current GTI? It might just. So the Jetta GLI might have a more powerful engine. Maybe it'll come with all-wheel drive. Maybe it'll be like the Golf R. I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. So they alluded to it at the launch of the Jetta this week, but didn't give us any specifics. End of the year, by the way, is when it's coming out. Taylor Earl says, how does the Atlas fuel economy compare to the Honda Pilot? You are not going to get the same kind of fuel economy. The VR6 engine that's in the Atlas is an older engine, and it's very well made, and it's going to be reliable. So it's going to do everything you want at almost 300 horsepower. The Pilot is a newer engine, and it also has the cylinder management system. So under light loads on the highway at steady speeds or going downhill, it switches off a number of the engines or shuts off the fuel supply. So that incrementally adds up to better fuel economy. So no, you're going to get better fuel economy with the Pilot. Victor says, hey Zach, just like my son's name, give me your thoughts on the Land Rover Discovery HSE Luxury versus the Mercedes-Benz GLS 450. We did look at the Atlas and Pilot, but interior quality not up to standards. Okay, so the Mercedes-Benz is going to be a nicer interior than even the Land Rover Discovery. The GLS is going to be replaced soon, okay? There were some spy pictures I saw of it this week, so the GLS is coming, a new one. So that is definitely a product with 3 rows. The Land Rover Discovery is not as rich on the inside as a Range Rover is. So they've really tried to differentiate the Land Rover and the Range Rover. Now, a lot of people are going to try and correct me. It's Land Rover is the brand, Range Rover is a trim, whatever. Range Rover is being made more luxurious, and the Land Rover products are being more mainstream. So, yeah, I would lean towards, now here's another thing to consider. The Mercedes isn't available any longer with the diesel. The Land Rover Discovery is, and that's the one I suggest you look at. So you get amazing torque, 443 pound-feet of torque, amazing fuel economy in comparison to the turbocharged engine in the Mercedes-Benz. So try it out for yourself. And I agree with you. So Mercedes-Benz is getting replaced. I'd probably go for the Land Rover. Ram says, watching your videos, I zeroed in on the RAV4 on the Honda CR-V, but I heard Honda parts are very expensive. Is that true? Because I buy a car, I should be able to travel around without worrying about the car breaking down. Yeah, well, I think both of them are going to be reliable. And here's the thing is, car parts are expensive. Toyota parts are expensive. So I don't know what to say. Cars break down on occasion, and you have to repair them. That's what car ownership is. Nlight6 says, hey Zach, all track or cross track for city and cottage vehicle in Madawaska, Calabogie area. Another part of Ontario I know is the Madawaska River, all the way up in the Ottawa Valley is where I spent all of my summers at the cottage up by Barry's Bay and Whitney, so the eastern gate of Algonquin Park. So I know that part of the world perfectly. Crosstrack is smaller, okay? And the all-track has more power. So for highway driving and those hills, in that part of the world can be quite steep up towards Algonquin Park. I would suggest that the all-track would be my choice. Yeah, mostly because of power and space. It's bigger, it's more powerful, and it uses a conventional automatic transmission, or doesn't use a CVT. Yashvir says, what are your thoughts on the new Subaru Forester? Don't have any real thoughts on it yet. It's been facelifted, have to wait to drive it. I believe that the ride and drive event for me to get a chance to drive it is in August. So this is going to be, the Ascent, the new 3-row Subaru is going to be coming out early summer and during the summer. The Forester is going to be more of a traditional fall launch, so end of summer into September and October. So I really don't have an answer for you other than have to wait to drive it. Juan says, is buying an Ioniq EV a good business choice? Um, well, look at the plug-in hybrid. My colleague Brian Chow from Everyday Reviews drove the plug-in. I drove the hybrid and the EV at the launch event here in BC last winter, and I hadn't had a chance to drive the plug-in version. And he drove it, and he said, I don't know why anybody would buy the plug-in version, because when you factor in the rebates of the pure EV, it's much better just to get the EV. You're getting all those rebates. And it's won awards, and I think it's a very nicely packaged car on the inside. I think the interior, I think of electric cars that are in the marketplace of that price, I would say the e-Golf and the Ioniq have the nicest interior because they're more like a conventional car. And when you look at the Bolt and even the new Leaf, there's a little bit more plastic in there. So yeah, I think it's a good choice. So factor in where you are on the rebates to see if it works for you. Bad Hatter says, Zach, I live in the Amazon jungle with no roads. What vehicle should I get? You should get a Mercedes-Benz G-Wagon. Mustafation says, hey, Zach, what's the car you recommend for students, preferably one with a higher end torque? Higher end horsepower and torque. I don't know. For a student? Mustang GT. Kidding. I don't know. Something like a Volkswagen Golf. I did a review. Like, I mean, it depends. What's your budget? I don't know what your budget is. Is it $5,000? Is it 25 grand? I need more information. Hello, goodbye. Hello, how is this guy? Hello, goodbye, people is his handle. Hi, Zach. Mid-20s couple looking for utility, daily driver, road tripper. Kids are 5+ years old. Reliable, safety, fuel economy, budget, under 40, ideally 30s. Okay, I applaud you for giving me all that information. What you didn't give me is what are you looking for? A utility vehicle or a car? A station wagon, a sedan? That's what I need to know. Budget is under 40, ideally 30s. Utility, oh, sorry, it says right here. For utility, daily driver, road tripper, reliability, safety, fuel economy, budget. If you are not in a rush, and you can hold off until the end of the year, I would wait for the new RAV4. I think this thing is going to be a massive hit for Toyota. Or a current RAV4, if they're going to be putting some deals on them in the next few months. Not right away, because the new RAV4 isn't coming till like December, so it would be the fall anyway when they're putting deals on them. So this is going to have the same engine as the Camry. So that's the 4-cylinder engine from the Camry. It's going to have the same 8-speed automatic transmission. It's built on that new Toyota global architecture that has independent rear suspension, much stiffer, quieter, smoother, more refined. It's going to have new in-dash technology, including Android, Apple CarPlay, no Android Auto, much nicer looking interior. So if you're not in a rush, and you can hang on there until the end of the year, the RAV4 would definitely be a vehicle to look at. And so too, would be a current model Forester, if that's going to be on sale in the next few months, or wait until we get a chance to drive the updated one, which I referenced. That'll be coming in the fall. So hang on if you're not in a rush, because there's going to be a lot of new choices in within the year, before the end of the year. Nestor says, what are your thoughts on the Subaru Legacy redesign getting a new 2-liter turbo engine? Well, you're starting to see this, like for the Mazda 6 is a perfect example. They're throwing all kinds of engine options and technology in this car to get people excited about sedans. Nobody's buying sedans. You have Accord and Camry and then everybody else. The Mazda 6 is the best car that nobody buys. I've recommended it over and over and over. The Mazda 6 is a great car. They sit there. And the Subaru Legacy sedan is another one. I like the campaign they have for trunkification. Have you seen that one where it's the utility with a trunk? I think that's quite clever. But yeah, they're going to see more of that. The industry is going to throw more stuff at sedans to keep people interested. For example, the new Jetta with all kinds of new technology, great 8-speed automatic transmission, bigger, and the price is the same. And that's maybe going to get people to look at sedans. Andrew H. says, has an 08 Ford Edge Limited all-wheel drive, 267,000 kilometers. Good for you. About to go replace Black Book Value says it's worth $0. That's a kick in the nuts, isn't it? You have a car that's, yeah, I mean, I don't know what to suggest. If you have to replace the computer, yeah, it probably isn't worth much. Like I said, electric car without a battery is worth nothing. Car without a computer is worth nothing. Jay says, hey Zach, after test driving the Golf R and watching your videos, I decided to order a base Golf GTI. Thanks, Jay from Nova Scotia. I think it's a great choice. I think that the GTI, now that they've made the Golf R more expensive and they've repriced the GTI with more equipment, it makes more sense for me to get the GTI. Invest those extra dollars on a good set of winter tires and you'd be set. Ling says, hey Zach, would you choose an Accord 2-liter T Sport over a Camry V6 considering the Canadian price of these two? What I suggest you do is drive them both and see what you think. I have no preference one way or the other. There's a lot to be said for a naturally or normally aspirated 6-cylinder engine and that 8-speed automatic transmission versus a turbocharged engine. So drive them both and choose the one you like. I have no skin in the game. I think they're both great cars. Blue Chinchilla Eating Dorito, another good name. Don't you hate how automakers always try to make their eco-friendly vehicles not look like their gasoline cousins? Take the Prius and the skirted rear wheels on the Clarity, for example. I know. Like, I mean, I hate to keep coming back to Volkswagen but I think they got it right with the e-Golf. The e-Golf looks like the regular Golf, except for the front. They have very funky looking LED lights. So when you look at it, you know two things. It's a Golf and you know it's the electric Golf. But other than that, it's a Golf. This thing is like a frog. It has got to be the ugliest car. The Aztec, that's what I was thinking about earlier. An ugly looking car. This thing, I don't know. I mean, I think it's probably, there's a great argument to be made for the Clarity is the best plug-in electric choice out there on the road today. Absolutely, it's huge. It's got a huge back seat, nice trunk, but I wouldn't drive around in it. I just think it's ugly. Rick Byers says, has Lexus really improved in its long-term reliability? The RX 350 is made in Canada, so it should be good. Lexus, -- year after year, decade after decade for reliability. The most reliable brand, Lexus. So yeah. Solar says, and by the way, the RX is made in Canada, has been for a long time, and they score very highly. Hi Zach, I'm looking at a Mercedes C-Class 300 or a BMW 328, 15 models. Which one would you go for, and which one is the better overall reliability? Reliability, I think it's a wash. I prefer the Mercedes-Benz. I think that this current generation of 3 Series from BMW isn't the BMW that everybody held close to their hearts for decades as the benchmark, the gold standard in that class of car. I think it isn't as good as the BMW 3 Series was. The Mercedes-Benz C-Class is way better than it was. Okay, so yeah, I think that's the one I would choose. George says, hey, I'm a recent university grad here in Ontario. Between the Mazda 3 GT, Elantra Sport, and the Civic, which one is best? I'm looking for an affordable way to get around but have some fun at the same time. So good for you. Elantra, like I said, Mazda 3 GT is going to be replaced. If you're not in a rush, maybe we'll hold off on that. The Elantra Sport, not the hatchback, but the sedan, surprised me a lot. I really thought that was a great car, or the Civic. Now, the big question I have to ask you, do you drive manual or do you drive automatic? If you drive manual, it's between the Civic and the Elantra Sport. They're both great choices. Pick either one. If it's between the Civic and the Elantra Sport with the automatic, well, the Civic has a CVT and the Elantra Sport has a dual clutch, which is going to be much more performance oriented to drive. So the Elantra Sport was the surprise. The Civic is money in the bank. It's money well spent and a great resale value. Now, if you like the Mazda 3 hatchback GT, go for it. But just know that this is probably going to be the last kick at the can for this model. Kieran says, would you recommend an 04 to 07 Acura TL as a reliable first car? They're very well made cars. However, as I mentioned in one of my answers earlier, when you're buying a used car, one that's now 10 plus years old, 14 years old potentially. You are buying the history of the car. You're buying the previous owners. You're buying the maintenance. You're buying all of that. So you really have to do your due diligence. Has it been in an accident? Do you have the records? Do you know how many previous owners there were? Have you done a car proof report and then get it inspected? Those are all the things you have to do. But as a long-term, basically the TL was based on the Honda Accord, which is another great car. So yeah, there shouldn't be an issue if all of those boxes get ticked. Chris says, hi Zach, Chris from Edmonton, Alberta. What can you tell me about the 2019 Mazda CX-5 diesel? When is it coming to Canada? We're all waiting to see. I will be asking, as I mentioned, going to drive the new Mazda 6 this week. I will ask that question. So tune in next week. M. Robich says, hi Zach, I heard today the Prius Prime is being discontinued. No, not true. In fact, the Prius Prime was introduced in Quebec only last year, and now it's being introduced in the rest of the country. So the car is only 2 years old. I don't think it's being discontinued. Christian says, I love your channel. Your videos are probably the best car reviews on YouTube. Oh, you're so nice. And I'm not related to whoever just wrote that. All About Vehicles says, hey Zach, is a Jeep Cherokee 2019 a good next vehicle for an 80-year-old grandmother who has 3 grandchildren? I have no issue with the Cherokee. They have updated the Cherokee. Yeah, I don't see an issue with that. How big are the grandchildren? Would you consider something a little bit bigger? So yeah, I have no issue with that. She currently drives a Mazda Tribute V6. Yeah, so no problem. If she drives a V6, I would probably lean towards the V6. The Pentastar has been as good repair record. So the smaller Pentastar, like the Grand Cherokee, gets the 3.6. I think in the regular Cherokee, I think the displacement's 3.2 off the top of my head. But it's not much more to get that engine. Jer says, spend money on a Sport 2018 Honda Accord. So I guess he's answering somebody earlier. Adrian says, hey Zach, what are your thoughts on using sites like on Haggle when purchasing a vehicle? I've got no experience with them. I have a buddy of mine in Ontario, lives in Whitby, and he used it to get a new Hyundai, and he swears by it. I don't really know much about it. I probably should do something on it to find out how it exactly works, but I really don't know anything more than what he told me, and he got a great price using it. Sir Khan says, hi Zach, manufacturers focus more on automatic transmissions and stick shift are disappearing dramatically. Please do something about it. Here's a nice thing, only because I went on the Jetta launch this week. In Canada, about 20% of Jetta sales are manuals. So Volkswagen Canada decided that on all trim levels will be available with either a manual transmission or the 8-speed automatic. And we see that from Honda. Honda is part of the Save the Manuals campaign. They're offering, other than their utilities, but in their sedans, like in the Fit and the Civic and even the Accord, they're offering with manual transmissions. A car like the Fit, for example, about 15 to 20% of those buyers drive manuals. And you can put it all down to the feet of our Quebec friends. In Quebec, much higher take rate of manual transmissions, they like sort of fun, smaller cars that are fun to drive with a manual. So yeah, Canada, I think, has a better take rate of manuals than they do in the US, but in the long run, I think it's going to be harder and harder to maintain. Monica's back asking, do you think the CR-V is a good purchase in the vehicle class? What other car in the class would you consider? I think the RAV4, the CR-V are great choices. The Mazda CX-5 is another good choice. There are so many vehicles in this set. Subaru Forester is a great vehicle. The Chevy Equinox is a great vehicle. I could go on and on and on. What I want you to do, Monica, is to have a look around on the road and then go and drive some for yourself and see what you like. There are lots of good choices out there. I'm just skipping ahead here because I'm running out of time. Keith says, hey Zach, love your show. What are your thoughts on the BMW M2 versus the Audi RS3? I really like the RS3 because I live in Toronto, all-wheel drive. Yeah, so that may be answering your question. The M2 is, I think the better car is the BMW 240. for the price, considering what you get in that car versus the M2. Plus, you can get all-wheel drive in the 2 Series. So give that a shot. Now, it doesn't have the bad boy looks of the M2 and the RS3. I haven't had a chance to drive it. I keep on asking Audi, when are you ever going to have a car for me to drive here on the West Coast? And they don't have one. But everybody that I know who has driven it says it's the one. That might be the one to get, or the 240 if you don't mind with the narrower body. Raymond says, which 2019 Cayenne did you reserve? Well, Raymond, I didn't get a 2019. I got the last of the TDI diesel Cayennes that were sitting on dealers' lots, not being able to be sold because of the whole Dieselgate issue with Audi, Volkswagen, and Porsche. So those cars have just been cleared for sale. I picked it up about a month ago. Exactly a month ago today. March 15th. So yes, I have a Cayenne, but I have the very last diesels. It had never been registered. It had no kilometers on it. It had just been sitting there. All right, I am at 1 hour, so I'm going to say farewell. It's basically 6 o'clock here on the West Coast. For all of you in the east that are going through this ice storm, I wish you all the best of luck, especially when you get up and if you have to commute in the morning. Good luck with all of that. Once again, follow along with everything along the bottom of the screen here. Motormouth is the website. Motormouth.ca is or _.ca is the Instagram, and Twitter as well. So follow along. Thanks to everybody that tuned in. That's all the time we have for today. I'd like to speak to you next week after I get a chance to drive the new Mazda 6, and we'll talk to you then. Bye for now.